Hi guys. Okay, so today we have today and tomorrow, and then we're going to be done with World War One. Today we're going to examine the final battles of World War One. We're going to look at about 2 or 3 of them, and then we're going to see how the war ends and the death tolls for the war as a whole. So if you look at your notes sheet, it looks a little different from normal. You have a question at the top called Itty Bitty Teeny Weeny Quiz. Um, these are just review questions, and so I want you to try to answer them on your own before we start. So go ahead and pause if you're watching the video. Pause the video and try those on your own. Okay. Number one, what was the German peace offensive? I gave you this one because it wasn't actually in the slides from before. The German peace offensive is that the Germans hope to win the war with one last offensive push, and that's what we're going to that's what we're going to learn about today. How they make one final push into France to try to get to Paris. And if they sack Paris, then that means that they take a major city, which is always usually the end of a war. So, number two, what was the immediate cause of World War One? The assassination of Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand. If you remember back to your MANIA acronym, the final A, the MANIA, the final A is assassination. The MAN and I, the militarism, alliances, nationalism, and imperialism, are all causes, yes, but those were causes that have been building up for a while. The immediate cause, the thing that set it all off, was the assassination. Number three, what policy did the U.S. adopt at the outbreak of the war? So the war broke out in 1914. America didn't join it until 1917 because America adopted a policy of neutrality, meaning they did not want to have any part of the war. They were neutral. They didn't want to join a side. Number four, why did the U.S. declare war on Germany? We had a whole lesson on this. There's 3 reasons that they wanted to declare war on Germany. 3 reasons that America joined the war in 1917. First reason is German U-boat attacks. Those are the submarines that shot torpedoed ships. Sympathy for Britain and France. We felt bad for Britain and France because they were our allies, and they were getting stomped on by Germans. And then, the Lusitania, you learned about that. That goes under the German U-boat attacks category. And then the Zimmerman telegram was when when Germany sent a telegram to Mexico saying that if Germany could use Mexico to attack the U.S., then Germany would help Mexico get its land back that it had lost from the U.S., like Texas, Arizona, the Southwest. But then, Britain intercepted it and told America, so the U.S. declared war on Germany. Number 5, how did Russia's withdrawal from the war affect the Allied war effort? We did this yesterday. We talked about how there was a Russian Revolution in 1917, and Vladimir Lenin was put into power with his Communist Party. And when the Tsar Nicholas II, when he was overthrown, Russia then withdrew from the war. So the Allied war effort, this should say the Central Powers war effort, actually. But more German troops could now fight on the Western Front. So remember, before before Russia pulled out of the war, Germany was trapped on their west side. Germany had France, its enemy, and on its east side, Germany had Russia, its enemy. But now with Russia out of the war, Germany could just focus on the west side, Western Front, rather than the Western and the Eastern Front. So they could put all their efforts in one place rather than having to split their efforts into 2 places. Alright, in your notes, this is where we're starting. And I'm not going to put anything else on this slide, but you have a box next to the phrase swooping from the west on your paper. Look at that box. And what I want you to do in that box is simply to describe what is happening in this picture. So just write that description down. And so I'll tell you the description, but write what you want to write. So we have the Statue of Liberty. Of course, the Statue of Liberty represents America. And then you have this eagle also representing America. So the title of this is Swooping from the West. That means that American forces, we joined the war in 1917. We are swooping into Europe. We have fresh legs. We are going to help France and Germany with fresh legs. We're swooping in to save the day. That's what this cartoon represents. Alright, the next line you have is called, next box you have is called the Western Front. And I put that as the title because that's what this map is called here. So what I want you to write in that box, I want you to tell me what city Germany is about to take. Well, it appears on this map that Germany is trying to take over. They're getting close to taking over what city? And that city is Paris. So you need to write that down. See, you got the German line of advance. So Germany is coming in this way. They're not getting pushed out. They're coming in. You have 3 big battles. You have battles over here. Germany has made their way in very far into France. And now if they can just get Paris, the capital, they take that over, then that means they will defeat Paris, or defeat France. So in the box next to the Western Front, make sure you write that the Germans are trying to take over Paris and are close to taking over Paris late in 1918. Okay, the next box you have is titled Battle of Belleau Wood, and you're going to write these 3 bullet points in that box. Make sure to paraphrase, as you might have trouble fitting them in there. So the Battle of Belleau Wood is taking place in France, called the Western Front, and it's Germany. And this is the first battle that the U.S. is going to be involved in. So the U.S. came over, fresh legs, in June. And the Germans were defeated after 3 weeks of battle. A 3-week-long battle is very long. And the Germans were defeated. Think about it. The Germans have been fighting. The Germans have been fighting for now what was 4 years? And America had just started. So Germany was tired. And America was fresh. The Allied defense of Paris was the turning point of the war. So America coming in, I'm not saying we won the war, but I'm saying that when America started fighting, that was the turning point. With our fresh legs, we turned back the enemy, which was Germany, and because they had been making really big advances towards the end of the war, and they were close to taking Paris. But when we helped to defend Paris, it was a big deal. Okay, the next battle we have, and the next box in your paper says Battle of the Argonne Forest. And this battle was fought in an attempt to push Germany further out of France. So if you look at this map here, here's the Battle of Belleau Wood. That's where this takes place. And that was the one you just wrote previously. Here's Argonne Forest. So before Belleau Wood, Germany was trying to get into, they were heading this way towards France. But then America came and gave a little stronger support and pushed Germany out. Helped to push Germany out all the way almost to the border. So this final battle is a big deal. This battle is crazy. It's 47 days. Should also be written down in the Battle of the Argonne Forest. After 47 days and heavy casualties, the Germans retreated. So they had a lot of deaths. and it took a month and a half to fight this battle. There's actually a famous man named Alvin York. He is a Tennessean. When you guys ride the bus, you pass the state capitol. There is a statue of Alvin York on the state capitol hill, and Alvin York was the guy in this war. He fought. I think he killed like 37 Germans or some crazy numbers. He killed a lot of Germans, and this Tennessee man helped lead to the surrender of Germany, which you're going to see in the next slide. Okay, your next box in your paper is called German Eagle to German Dove. What I want you to do on this one is just describe the picture. What do you see? So if you need to pause it and write down what you see, go ahead and do that. Now, the meaning of it, you can help use the quote if you'd like. It says here, carry on for a bit, will you? I'm feeling rather run down. So this is a German eagle. You can tell he's German because he has on his little hat, and the hat has the little pointy thing on it. And then you have your German dove. Now, the German eagle represents the armies that had been fighting since 1914 to 1918. The German dove is going to represent surrender and peace. So this picture is showing the German eagle saying, okay, will you go surrender now? We are tired. I'm feeling run down. We're tired. We don't have much to do left. Will you go surrender and bring peace? So Germany is going to lose. Alright, so peace at last. 11 a.m. on November 11th, 1918. Germany agrees to an armistice ending World War I. So an armistice is a peace agreement. So armistice means that they're going to stop fighting. And the good way you can remember this is 11 a.m. November 11th. November is the 11th month. So 11/11/11, 1918, World War I officially ends. You need to write that down next to your peace at last box. Here's the newspaper on November 11th, 1918. This is in Minnesota. So armistice is signed. Germany surrenders. It's very big news. Very, very big news. Now, you have a box that says final tallies. You don't have to write anything in that box, but that just represents that the boxes, World War I deaths, Entente deaths, and Central Powers deaths, are all the final tallies of the war. They're the final counts, the final death counts. So, in the box next to World War I deaths, you need to write this underlined part. 13 million people died, 20 million were wounded in the war. Now, depending on your source, the numbers are going to be different. The source that we used at the beginning of this unit said 19 million people died. So between 13 million and 19 million, I know that's a lot of difference, but different countries report different numbers. And then if you look at the pie chart, ask yourself, okay, which group here had the most deaths? And you have the Entente military is going to have 36% of the deaths. The Entente is going to be the Allies. It's Russia, it's England, it's France, it's the United States. And we're going to see, while the Entente won the war and the Central Powers lost the war, Russia, you're going to see in the next couple slides, Russia has so many losses that it kind of outweighed the losses that the Central Powers had. And civilians, Entente civilians versus Central Power civilians. So the civilians of Germany and Bulgaria, those countries, versus the civilians of Russia and France, America, etc. You had more civilians die in the Central Powers, but you had more military die in the Entente Powers. Alright, this is what I want you to write about this pie chart in the box called Entente Deaths. So, in Entente powers, which is all these countries, just what you could do, you could write which ones had the most deaths, was just the Russian Empire, and then which one had the least deaths. And no. The United States, out of our choices here, United States only has 2% of the military deaths for the Entente powers. So you could put Russian has the most and the U.S. has the least amount of deaths. But that makes sense because Russia was in it for much longer than the U.S. was in the war. Alright, this is the last slide. That also means this is your last box. So your box is titled Central Powers Deaths on your notes. So Central Powers are, remember the Central Powers are Germany, Austria-Hungary, Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria. And by far, Germany is going to have the most military deaths of the Central Powers. Write that down. And then Bulgaria is going to have the least amount. So you can write the percentages if you want, because you're going to have to make a newspaper article about this. You don't have to, though. Just know that Germany had the most deaths of the Central Powers. Russia had the most deaths, remember, of the Allied powers, the Entente. And Bulgaria had the least amount of deaths. Okay. Now, this is the last slide. I'm not going to go on. I'm not going to change the slide. But you have an assignment. If you flip your paper over, it has a newspaper template on the back of it. It's assignment number 13B. For assignment number 13B, your directions are to do a newspaper article about the end of the war, the events, and the final death tolls. So there in your template, you have a space. You need to make sure that you put a title for your article in big, bold, capital letters. You need to make sure that you write at least 2 paragraphs about the events of the war, detailed paragraphs. Use your notes. If you, for some reason, want more information other than what is in your notes, feel free to do some research on your own and write more. But do 2 paragraphs. My advice, at least 2 paragraphs. My advice would be to do the first paragraph about the events. So you could do like the Battle of Bellawood, what happened there. The Battle of the Argonne Forest, what happened there. What was America's role. When did the peace finally come? What was the date of the surrender, the armistice? And then in the second paragraph, you could summarize the death tolls. You could say how many, who had the most deaths, who had the least amount of deaths. And if you want some more numbers, here are some more slides you can look at. These are exact numbers. So your Entente powers, look down here. Russia has 4,950,000 wounded military, not dead, wounded. 3 million deaths, which is far above the next one, which is France, which is only 1.5 million. So you could use this slide if you want for your numbers. This is Entente power. So use the Central Powers data here.